All right, guys, welcome back to the shack. And tonight I'm going to be doing something that has been a little while in the making. Some of you may be familiar with here recently during a firmware upgrade, something happened. I don't know if my machine lost USB connection or what, but the S1 did not receive the firmware update, but instead it bricked it. So I reached out to xTool. They told me to try a few things. I tried. They remoted into the machine, attempted to fix it themselves. At the conclusion, they decided to send me a new board out. And today what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be trying to revive this machine by installing the new main board and seeing if that gets it back going. So if that's something you're into, or if you're fixing to try this process yourself, stick around. I'm going to walk you through it as we go and see how it turns out. All right, guys, just like we did for the MK2 the other day, I'm going to be using the glasses to try to get a little bit better view from time to time so you can see what I'm doing. From what I can tell, I don't think I'm going to have to lift the machine up or disassemble anything. It looks like I'll be able to get it out through the back right here. That's what I'm hoping. I kind of peeked in from the front, and it appears that the board is situated right here inside this little panel where all the connectors connect. This is how I received it, so we'll unroll it here and get this board out and just take a look and show you what it looks like. Yeah, hopefully the process won't be too painful. It doesn't look bad from what I can see on the outside here. If you look at how this thing is situated, the power switch is here, connector there, and then the other connectors down below. So there's a pretty good likelihood that by taking this out, we can remove this piece, change the board out, pop it back in. I think we'll be good. That's what I'm going to hope for anyway. So let's get these wires disconnected. I'm going to move some of this stuff out of the way and clear our workspace, and we'll get started. All right, so I got all the cables out of the way, and hopefully this is all we have to take off. It's going to be using a 2.5 millimeter screwdriver here, and a lot of these machines, guys, that's my first try is a 2.5, especially with xTool. A lot of the screws are going to be a 2.5 when you're working on those guys. We'll be laying the screws over here on the table as to hopefully not lose any. And it appears that it only has these 6 screws here holding it in. So I'm hoping that after we remove these screws, maybe the board will just kind of expose itself to us without having to further disassemble the machine. All right, so now I'm just going to easily pull this little cover here off and see what we're getting into. See how much of a pain this is going to be. Well, I'm going to need to take that USB loose, so don't forget to do that. I did. And looks like there's our board, guys. So not hard to get to at all. So I'm going to take these 4 screws right here loose from the main board. It looks like it's just sitting in there. And then we're going to have to unplug everything. So hopefully these little few screws here should release it. Looks like that Phillips head there may have to come out too. Not sure why I used the Phillips head on that one. But looking at the old board, that screw is going to have to come out as well. All right, now for the tedious part. Get this thing out without breaking anything. Another one of those little Wi-Fi connectors right there. I'll try to just pop that off. Get that up out of the way. And pull everything out. And there's a zip tie holding everything together. So we're going to cut that and get these wires where we can get a good look at where everything goes. The zip tie just goes around the board there, so clip that guy. And hopefully that'll release the wiring. It's all kind of twisted up in there. This little board just slides out, so we'll go ahead and pull that out before I break something. Looks like I got a few zip ties I need to get loose where, well, if I can work this, get all these unplugged and swapped over without undoing it, that'll save me a step going back. So let's get the other board out here. Looks like everything is color coded, mostly. There's a white one and a white one. We've got some mixed match colors, but for the most part, it should be self-explanatory. Micro SD card. So I took the old one, the one out of the old board, and I formatted it and put it back in here. I didn't see any kind of software or anything that's on there. It looks like it's just for swap space. So we're going to just put that back in there. Clean. I did keep the files and put them on my machine just in case. Not understanding that. They sent me a connector, I guess. Okay. So I'm not going to need that connector, I hope. Okay, not sure if that's just for shipping or what, but see how this is soldered together, kind of like a jumper? Right here. This actually goes to something. So, not sure why they did that. But anyway, I'm just going to unplug this one, plug it into that board. Okay, curiosity got me, guys. Apparently that is the emergency cutoff switch. So maybe that is a jumper that they used at the plant to test the boards. And they just bypass. Basically, they're just closing the circuit on this switch so that it doesn't work. So yeah, definitely don't need that on there. All right. This is kind of like a puzzle. I'm going to go and try to remove wires from one and connect them to the other. That way there's no confusion. And I'll let you know how that works out here in a minute. Looks like a little glue on that board. I'm really not digging my old board as much as I like the looks of the new one. Okay, well, we're going to push on. Okay, so somebody got a little carried away with the glue. And all of these are glued. And I just pulled that one loose from the board, trying to pull this plug loose. So, watch out for that. Okay, leaving the zip ties on was a bad idea. Because of the zip tie and glue fetish whoever put this together had. It just makes it a little hard. So I'm going to go ahead. I've taken the wires out of their bundles. And I'm just going to get these that don't have the glue all over them off first. And then I'm going to come back for all those ones that are glued in. So these actually come out relatively easy. And it looks like, other than a few that are kind of bundled together, some of them you can actually pull out of this loom and go into the other way. So that's what I'm going to do, because that glue is proven to be quite a challenge. I need one more hand. Did I mention that? One more hand would be nice. All right, so I've got everything loose and moved over, except for the ones that the glue bandit got a hold to. Look at this. I mean, it makes it really challenging to get these loose. So just be warned that that's going to be something to contend with. And I still ain't figured out exactly how I'm going to get it all loose, but we'll get it slowly but surely. The ones without the glue, relatively easy. The ones with the glue, not so much. Finally. Okay, we're not putting glue on this when we go back. One thing I will indicate to you is make sure that when you put these in, the pins, see where the pins are up high, kind of high right there. all of the pins are this way offset. So don't try to put those in backwards. You could bend some of the pins on the main board, and that would be disastrous. All right, so I'm not going back with all the glue and all the excess stuff. I'm just going to kind of try to bunch these things up. And there's nothing shouldn't be grabbing them or pulling on them. Just pressing them in here should be more than adequate to make sure that those little tiny plugs don't jump off. That glue was just a handle that I don't want it to contend with if I ever had to go back in here again. So we're going to put this board back on because I removed it to keep from breaking it. This thing slides in over here on this little slot, and then everything just kind of sits back up in there. Get that lined up. Make sure I get my Wi-Fi antenna outside, and should be able to get it back in there and get everything lined up. Put the screws back in, and then I'm gonna save that antenna for last. Yes, see, I knew it wasn't going to be that easy. They never are for me. We'll be back shortly. All right, guys, moment of truth before I put the hood on it. Get everything plugged up. Fix to flip the switch and see what happens. All I've been getting out of it was a blinking purple light. So let's see if it does anything different this time. Voila! Look at her go, so guys. Look at her go. Okay, so now we can button her back up. It appears that it is working. I think I'm gonna try to see if I can connect to it before we button her up completely. Make sure I didn't leave anything loose. All right, guys, back over here at the computer, and my screen capture recording for some reason is not working, and we're not going to fool with that today. I'm going to load XCS and see if this works. xTool S1. Oh, not now, guys. Not now. We're not upgrading nothing right now. So yeah, it seems to be working. Let me go put some material in there. We'll double check everything. All right, guys. So I just set the distance on it. That appears to be working. Okay. So, machine's going back out. Now I've got to set up the, workpiece area. I'll be using the rectangle. And go over here and get this done. All right, so the marking is done. Let me turn that light off since I'm not using the computer. So that's got our material marked, and I'm just going to bring something in right quick. Just a little something quick to burn just to make sure everything is working as it should. We'll set that to engrave. 4.5 millimeter Luon, and what's this red layer? I think that's I think I need to move that over to the other layer. No, that was not what I needed to do. There we go. All right, that fixed it. All right, so here we go. Oh no. Oh no. We got to update. Mandatory. All right, guys, since it's mandatory, here we go. I'm gonna bring you guys along just in case. All right, I'm being very nervous right now because this is where I was last time when this thing died. Oh, that makes my heart sink. All right, so I'll let you know how it works out. All right, guys, it appears that that didn't break it. So maybe we're good. I'm gonna do one more check for updates since it's hollering that everything is mandatory. Looks like I have the most current firmware. So let's see if this works. All right, so after that debacle, I've got to redo my processing area. So let's do that. All right, got it marked, and we should be good as long as it didn't change my settings. Let's double check that. We're good. So sending it to the machine, guys, and we'll see what happens. All right, the moment of truth. Now, I haven't got it put all the way back together, but we're just going to test it before we do to make sure we don't need to go plug anything up. So here we go. Oh, yeah, it's a working. All right, guys, so Operation S1 Lazarus was a success. All right, guys, so I'm letting it finish the engrave that I started to test with, and so far it is working. So I'm gonna go ahead and button everything up, put the outside cover back on. I had left it off thinking that there was a possibility maybe I had overlooked one of the plugs, but luckily I got them all and everything's working. It wasn't too terrible, other than whoever that guy with the glue is. Whoever the guy with the glue is, please stop. Please stop. But yeah, it wasn't too terrible. And one thing I will tell you guys is after I got the board out and went to make it a swap, I got to looking and check the version number because I was just kind of curious if this was a newer board or an older board than what I was sent to repair it with. And this one actually says this is version 1-3. The one that they sent me to replace it with was version 1-2. I don't know what changed between the two machines, but the machine's back operational now. It's working. I did my little test engrave as well as a test cut. I haven't sanded it or anything, but back in business, guys. So very thankful, because if I was unable to fix this thing, that's a lot of money just sitting over there wasted away for the cost of a new board. Now, I hear a lot of terror stories and nightmare scenarios from people in dealing with xTool, and I will say the time difference does make it a little challenging, because when you email them, then they email you the next day, and then you email back. It takes longer than it would if they were, say, here in the United States. But unfortunately, with a lot of these companies, they're going to keep their help desk and their support folks over there. And so you're just going to have to understand that there's going to be that 12-hour gap, unless you just want to stay up all night and deal with them. I actually had to push the support guys back a little bit because they were wanting to remote into my machine and look at it and see if it was an easy fix. But I had other things going and just couldn't shut the shop down and lose money to try to get it back going. So once I got those jobs done, I connected it to a computer, allowed them to come in and check it out. They agreed with my assessment that the board had went bad, and that's when they chose to go ahead and send me another board. And it worked. So I was right, and so were they. But I made that assessment without remoting into the machine, but I understand from a help desk perspective, not everybody has the computer knowledge that I bring to the table. So when they're dealing with me, they don't know me from just the average Joe, despite the fact that I know my way around lasers and computers and technical stuff. They're going to treat me the same as they would if it was someone who had never worked on a machine before. So that's understandable from their perspective, because it's not like I have a certification card I can show them and they're like, oh, okay, well, we'll send you the parts. It doesn't work like that. So be patient with them, but all in all, the experience wasn't terrible. The pitfalls for the board swap, I will tell you this: if you get one that has that glue on it, go ahead and spend the extra time and pick that glue off there as safely as you can, because the very first one that I pulled on, I guess I assumed the glue would come loose relatively easy, like hot glue generally does, but it actually felt like maybe it pulled loose from the board a little bit. So it's not that big of a deal because it was a bad board, but in the event that you're doing an upgrade, maybe your board's not necessarily bad, then you're going to damage the board. The zip ties that they had, all the zip ties in there, I didn't really see a need in it for this application. If that board was going to be moving and the wires were going to be wiggling around, those smaller plugs, I could understand, zip tying them together to kind of share that torsion and keep them from popping off. But where this one is located in the machine, I didn't feel the need to put the zip ties back in there. It just made it harder to try to bunch everything and put it back in there and put the lid back on it. So I didn't put those on. Went back with all the screws, same place that they were. Like I said, dozen or so screws. I think there was probably, I lost count, but I think there was 6 holding the cover on and maybe like 8 that held the board in. Pretty good bit of plugging and unplugging, but I was able to hold one board and just kind of unplug from one and plug to the other. That is the safest way of doing that, so that you know that you're putting it in the correct port. There was a few of the wires that I couldn't do that with, so I just made sure I had one of each color and I knew where they went and did them like in little groups. Other than the white, there was a couple of white plugs, but the plugs were slightly different. It really wasn't that technical. Most everything was color coded really well. So, and then once I got the machine hooked back to XCS, of course, mandatory updates before I could run it. That was scary, but I was on USB. Everything went well. I've also went back since I didn't record it, but I went back and set the Wi-Fi up, and I've got the machine now operating off of Wi-Fi. So all is good. Everything on the machine is working. I've checked the air assist by doing the cut to confirm that my air assist still works. We're back to normal, good to go. And so now I can use my screen printing jig again with it instead of having to, borrow the real estate of the Lasermatic. So, but altogether, guys, not a bad experience. I think it was about 2 weeks total. And keep in mind, I did push them back a few days because I did not have time to dedicate to troubleshooting it with them for a couple of days. So I pushed the date back myself a little bit, but still within a couple of weeks, got it back up and going. I've had the board now for probably close to a week. So the part of installing the board, that's on me as well. But their part, it was about 2 weeks from the time I had a problem until the board arrived here. So, and I did push them back 2 or 3 days. So I figure probably if I hadn't pushed them back, maybe 11 days, because I could have shaved 2 or 3 days off of that if I'd have went ahead that night and allowed them into the machine. So not a bad turnaround. Now, it would be terrible if that's the only machine that you had and you had orders backed up. That would be terrible. So that's why I say, guys, strength in numbers. People want to, say that you can't make money with diodes, and you can, but more is better because the more machines you have, the more machines you have running. And also, if you have a failure, you may have to work twice as much that week, but you can still get the jobs done in most situations. So I hope the video helps, guys. I scoured the internet looking for a video of this operation and could not find it. The only video I found was one that xTool did on the M1, or the laser box, their original laser box, and that was no help. The board came with no manual. I can't find anything anywhere. So I hope this helps for you guys. If you ever have to go through this, maybe it'll make the process a little easier. And if you are using it and it does help, drop a comment down below and let me know. And that way I can keep this stuff coming. But until next time, guys, be safe and have a good day.